The buzz started days before the interview. Liberal news outlet The Progress Report had landed a one-on-one sit-down with Pam Bondi, the former Florida Attorney General and staunch Republican known for her unapologetic takes and sharp legal mind. The host, Alex Mercer, a fast-talking, progressive journalist with a reputation for cornering his guests with rapid-fire, detail-heavy questions. His past interviews had made politicians squirm. This time, he was aiming for a scalp. The promo clips were everywhere. Alex, sitting in his studio, eyes locked on the camera. "This Tuesday, I'm sitting down with Pam Bondi, and I promise, no softballs." The conservative circles rolled their eyes. The liberal side rubbed their hands in anticipation. For Pam, it was just another Tuesday. She arrived at the studio 10 minutes early, dressed in a sharp navy suit, hair neatly in place, expression calm. No entourage. No notes. Just a quiet confidence that unsettled even the producer who escorted her in. Alex met her at the studio door with a carefully neutral smile. "Pam, thanks for coming." "My pleasure, Alex," she replied, shaking his hand firmly. "I hear you ask the tough questions." He chuckled. "I do." "Good. I give real answers." The lights dimmed. Cameras rolled. The opening credits faded to Alex seated at his signature glass desk, Pam across from him, her posture relaxed, eyes steady. "Pam Bondi," he began, voice smooth, "you've served as Florida's Attorney General, advised President Trump, and remained a vocal advocate for conservative values. Many view you as a polarizing figure. Today, I'd like to explore why." She smiled politely. "Let's do it." Alex leaned forward. "Let's start with your support for the Trump administration. You defended him during the impeachment trials. Do you believe a sitting president should be immune from scrutiny, even when evidence suggests wrongdoing?" Pam didn't flinch. "No one is above scrutiny, Alex, not even a president. But scrutiny should be based on fact, not political theater. In both impeachment cases, the evidence didn't meet the constitutional standard for removal. It wasn't about defending a man, it was about defending the rule of law." Alex blinked, just slightly thrown by the clarity. Some would say that the evidence, particularly in the Ukraine case, was substantial. She nodded. Substantial in public opinion, maybe, but not under legal standards. Ask any trial lawyer, hearsay and political motive don't hold up in court. He moved quickly. "You've also criticized the media. Would you say outlets like this one contribute to public distrust in institutions?" Pam kept her tone neutral. "I think some media outlets prioritize outrage over information. That damages trust. The press is essential, but with that power comes responsibility. When headlines become weapons, people lose faith." Alex was still composed, but he clicked his pen, a small tell. "Let's talk about immigration. You've supported strict border policies, including family separations during the Trump years. Do you still defend that approach?" Her voice was calm. "I support lawful immigration. The family separation policy was flawed in execution, yes. But it began under the Obama administration. The real problem is a broken immigration system. When the laws aren't enforced, we create humanitarian crises. We need reform, not slogans." There was a pause. Not because she was flustered, but because Alex realized she had just dismantled a question that had tripped up senators. "Okay," he said, regaining his rhythm. "Let's go local. During your time as Florida AG, you opposed same-sex marriage. Do you still hold that position?" Pam leaned forward slightly. "I followed the law of Florida at the time. The Supreme Court has since spoken. That's now the law of the land. I respect it. My personal beliefs don't override constitutional authority." It wasn't a dodge. It was measured. Legalistic, perhaps, but honest. Behind the cameras, one of the junior producers looked up from her tablet. So far, the grilling wasn't going as expected. Alex tapped his notes. "Let's pivot. You've been accused of benefiting politically from large donations. Some say there's a conflict of interest in how you handled certain investigations." She raised an eyebrow. "Are you referring to the Trump Foundation case?" He nodded. "I never accepted any money from Trump's foundation. That's a rumor that's been disproven. Florida didn't pursue the case because New York already had jurisdiction, and they handled it. Sometimes multiple states don't pile on when one is already pursuing a case effectively. Alex hesitated. He'd planned that question as a minefield, not a speed bump. Pam's tone remained steady. Transparency is important. I've always disclosed my donations, followed ethics rules, and welcome audits. The tension in the studio shifted, subtly but surely. She wasn't just surviving the interview. She was controlling it. Alex glanced at the time. They were 12 minutes in, and not a single soundbite had gone his way. But he wasn't finished yet. He took a breath and said, "Let's talk race." Pam's expression didn't change. "Let's." He continued, "In 2020, you defended the police in several high-profile cases, including some that sparked national protests. Do you believe systemic racism exists in American law enforcement?" Pam replied without hesitation. "I believe we have individual officers who abuse power, and they should be held accountable. But painting every department, every officer with the same brush is dangerous. Systemic issues exist in education, in housing, in opportunity. Law enforcement is one part of a much bigger picture. Reform should be smart, not punitive." Alex folded his hands. "Some might say that's a dodge." "It's not," she said, meeting his gaze. "It's nuance, which, unfortunately, doesn't trend on Twitter." That line landed hard. The studio fell into an uneasy quiet as the commercial break was called. Pam leaned back, took a sip of water, and looked toward the control booth with a faint smile. She knew exactly how it was going. Alex, for the first time, wasn't so sure. As the red tally light blinked back on, signaling the return from commercial break, Alex Mercer forced a smile. But something in his demeanor had shifted, a slight tension in his jaw, a new tightness in his shoulders. The first segment hadn't gone as planned. Instead of cornering Pam Bondi, she'd met each of his questions head-on, diffusing his jabs with facts, poise, and legal precision. But now, he was ready to raise the stakes. "Welcome back," he said, addressing the viewers. "We're here with former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, having a frank discussion about law, politics, and accountability. Let's keep going." He turned to her, eyes narrowing slightly. "Pam, let's talk January 6th. The Capitol attack. You've been criticized for downplaying its severity early on. Do you still stand by your statements from that week?" Pam didn't blink. "I condemned the violence on January 6th, that day. What I didn't do was politicize it. Rioters should be prosecuted, and many have been. But I also believe in equal outrage. I didn't see the same level of media fury during the summer of 2020 when federal buildings were attacked and police precincts set on fire." Alex leaned in. "Are you equating peaceful protests for racial justice with an insurrection?" "No," she said, her voice even. "I'm pointing out that violence, from any side, should be condemned equally. Justice doesn't work on a sliding scale. Either we stand for law and order, or we don't." The control room was silent. Pam's tone wasn't aggressive, but it carried weight. She wasn't there to score points. She was there to prove a point. Alex shuffled his notes. "Let's go to your legal past. As AG, you opposed a multi-state investigation into opioid manufacturers. Critics say you protected pharmaceutical companies. Care to explain?" Pam's expression didn't change. "Florida filed its own suit. We didn't join the multi-state coalition because we wanted to move faster, not slower. And we did. We secured over $1.6 billion in settlements. Look it up." Alex paused. "So, you deny any coziness with Big Pharma?" "I worked for the people of Florida. That's why we got one of the largest opioid settlements in the country. Sometimes, leading means not following the pack." It wasn't bravado, it was just solid data. Behind the scenes, the assistant producer checked her tablet and frowned. Pam wasn't bluffing. Alex's tone sharpened. "So you're saying every criticism of your record is just media spin?" "No," she said. "Criticism is healthy. But facts matter. I've made unpopular decisions, yes. But I've always made them based on the law, not headlines." He sat back, now clearly frustrated. All right. Let's talk culture war. Let's, she said calmly. You've publicly supported Florida's "don't say gay" law. That's not what the law is called, she interjected, still polite. Its actual name is the Parental Rights in Education Act, and it doesn't ban the word gay. It limits sexual and gender discussions in K-3 classrooms. I support that. Parents have the right to decide what's age-appropriate for their kids. Alex raised an eyebrow. Even if it marginalizes LGBTQ youth. No child should feel unsafe, she said. And no child should be sexualized at age 5. Both can be true. We protect everyone by being honest and age-sensitive, not by politicizing classrooms. A pause. Do you support gay rights? I support equal rights, Pam answered. Always have. But I also support parental rights and local control over education. These aren't mutually exclusive. Alex's face tightened slightly. This was supposed to be the moment. The viral clip. But she kept blocking every hit like a seasoned boxer. He decided to shift tactics. Let's talk about you personally, he said. You faced criticism not just for your positions, but for your appearances on conservative news shows, your tone, your partisanship. Some say you're more of a pundit than a public servant. Pam laughed, a quiet, genuine laugh. That's rich, coming from a guy who hosts a partisan show. The studio froze. She continued, unfazed. Everyone picks a side these days. But I've served in public office. I've tried cases. I've written legislation. I don't just talk about politics. I've practiced law and lived the consequences of bad policy. So if I sound confident, that's why. Alex swallowed hard, forcing a smile. You're good at this. I'm good at facts, she said. That tends to help. The studio went quiet again. This wasn't just an interview anymore. It was a duel. And the challenger was losing ground. Alex turned to the camera with a forced smile. We'll be back after this break. And when we return, I'll ask Pam Bondi about abortion, gun rights, and her future in politics. Stay with us. The moment the cameras cut, Alex leaned back and took a deep breath. Pam calmly reached for her water bottle. You're not making this easy, he muttered. It's not supposed to be, she replied. The final segment was supposed to be the knockout round. Alex Mercer had saved his hardest questions for last, expecting that even if Pam Bondi held her ground earlier, she'd falter under pressure when it came to America's most divisive issues. Abortion. Guns. Her political future. As the red light blinked on again, signaling they were live, Alex sat up straighter, determination behind his eyes. Pam, as before, looked relaxed, a quiet kind of control that unnerved even the seasoned production crew. Welcome back, Alex said, his voice tighter than before. Let's dive into the deep end, shall we? Pam gave a small nod. Go ahead. Abortion, Alex said plainly. You supported the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Do you honestly believe that rolling back 50 years of precedent was the right move? Pam didn't hesitate. Yes. Because Roe was bad law. Even legal scholars on the left admitted that. The Constitution doesn't mention abortion, and under our system, that means it's a matter for the states, not the federal government. Alex fired back. But what about women's rights? Doesn't this strip women of control over their own bodies? I believe in protecting life, she said firmly. That includes the unborn. But states now have the right to decide where they stand. Some will be more restrictive, others more permissive. That's democracy. And if people disagree, they can vote accordingly. You're saying it's that simple? Alex asked, incredulous. It's not simple, she said. It's hard. It's emotional. It's deeply personal. But we can't let feelings override the framework of our laws. And for decades, Roe shut down that conversation. For a moment, even Alex didn't speak. She wasn't reciting talking points. She genuinely believed every word she said. Let's go to guns, he said next. You've opposed expanded gun control laws, even after mass shootings in Florida. How do you justify that? Pam's voice didn't rise. Because I believe in the Second Amendment. But that doesn't mean doing nothing. After Parkland, we implemented red flag laws, raised the minimum age to buy rifles, and improved background checks. Florida acted. But stripping rights from law-abiding citizens doesn't stop criminals. Alex pressed, and what about AR-15s? Weapons of war. Pam looked directly at him. That's a media phrase. AR-15s are semi-automatic rifles. Functionally, they're not that different from other hunting rifles. Most people who use them do so lawfully. The issue isn't the tool, it's the user. We should focus on mental health, secure schools, and law enforcement. He exhaled through his nose. It just sounds like the same NRA defense. I don't work for the NRA, she replied. I work for the Constitution. There was a pause. Alex glanced down at his last card. Final question, he said. Do you have political ambitions? Governor? Senate? Maybe even something higher? Pam smiled for the first time. I believe in service. If there's a place where I can make a difference, maybe. But I don't chase titles. But you do chase cameras, he said, testing her. She leaned forward. I accept interviews. Like this one. Even with hostile hosts. The crew stifled a collective breath. Alex laughed awkwardly. Touché. Pam didn't gloat. She just sat back. Composed. Unshaken. Then Alex surprised everyone. Okay, he said. I'll say it. I thought you'd crumble under pressure. I thought I'd catch you off guard. But you've answered every question. Calmly, directly. I may not agree with your positions, but you showed up. That matters. Pam extended a hand across the desk. That's what conversation is supposed to be. He shook it. A rare moment of mutual respect. As the closing credits rolled, the studio crew exchanged glances. No shouting, no meltdown, no viral gaffe, but something better. A real exchange. Sharp, intense, but grounded in ideas, not insults. Once the cameras stopped, Alex turned to Pam. You know this is going to surprise a lot of people. Good, she said. Maybe they need to be surprised. The interview was over. The bright studio lights dimmed, and the closing credits faded from the screen. But something in the room still buzzed, not tension, exactly, but a kind of electricity. Everyone had felt it. Something unexpected had just happened. Alex Mercer took off his mic, still seated across from Pam Bondi, who hadn't moved. She was calm, collected, and unmistakably pleased, not smug, but fully aware she had held her ground. And more than that, she'd made people listen. The producer came over. That was not what I expected. Pam turned to her. You expected fireworks? We expected a fire, the producer admitted. You didn't get burned. Pam stood. That's because I don't light matches in the middle of interviews. Alex chuckled. You know you didn't give me a single moment to clip as a gotcha. That's your job, Pam said, gathering her notes, even though she hadn't looked at them once. Mine was to show up, speak the truth, and not flinch. He followed her off the stage, past the rows of silently blinking monitors, toward the hallway leading to the green room. People are going to be talking about this. You understand that, right? Both sides. I hope so, she said. Maybe they'll talk about something real for a change. In the hallway, a young intern with blue hair and a "Democracy is not a spectator sport" t-shirt stopped her. Nervous, but bold. I didn't agree with you, but you were impressive. Just thought I should say that. Pam smiled warmly. Thank you. That means more than you think. She stepped into the green room to grab her coat. Her phone was already lighting up, texts from colleagues, news alerts, social media notifications. Trending, #Pam Bondi interview. Pam Bondi School's liberal host on live TV. Not a single stumble. Bondi dominates interview with Alex Mercer. The calmest political takedown you'll see this year. Meanwhile, on Twitter, the reactions were pouring in. I don't agree with a word Pam Bondi said, but she came prepared and didn't dodge a single question. That's rare. Pam just destroyed that smug progressive host with facts and grace. Give this woman a Senate seat. Interviewing someone you disagree with is easy. Listening to them answer every question without flinching? That's harder. Credit where it's due. Back in the studio, Alex reviewed the raw footage. He'd expected to challenge her, and he did, but she hadn't slipped. No stuttering, no anger, no weak spots. Just layered arguments, historical references, legal reasoning, and quiet confidence. He sighed, then turned to his producer. You know, maybe this is what we need more of. What? Losing arguments? No, he said. Real debates. Not just yelling matches for the algorithm. She made her case. I made mine. That's what journalism's supposed to be. Pam exited the building to a waiting car, the sun just starting to set behind the skyline. She'd done dozens of interviews in her career, but this one felt different. Not because she'd won, but because she'd shown what winning could look like. No shouting, no drama, no political theater, just substance. As her car pulled away, she looked out the window at the city. She hadn't just answered every question. She had dismantled the expectation that a conservative woman, even one as seasoned as she, couldn't go into hostile territory and come out stronger. And Alex, he wasn't embarrassed by being outmaneuvered. Not really. Deep down, he knew that what just happened was bigger than his ego. Pam Bondi had reminded people that conviction, reason, and preparation could still hold power, even in the age of outrage. And for once, both sides, even if only briefly, had no choice but to listen.